So, I think this is chapter 19. Everything was going fine for a while. And I was making connections in Lansborough. And then I came between a disagreement between two former friends. I met one of them, and he used to bring me to gigs and stuff like that. I used to go over to his house. He said that he often went to bed and I'd be by the fire playing guitar, and he'd wake up and I'd be there when he'd come back still playing. I often fell asleep with the guitar in my hand. But one day something happened and I got a very bad feeling, and I walked out the door, never to return until years later. How did I bump into him? I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I bumped into him, but I bumped into him. I was chatting to him, talking about music and catching up and things like that. But he held information from me, and he was telling me about the lads that I was hanging around with. I was telling him, I was talking to him as a friend in trust. And then I was talking to them, and I brought his name up. Big mistake. A big mistake. Keep your privacy between you and who you interact with in different places. Nobody needs to know where you go, who you meet, what you do. I opened a can of worms, according to one of them. And then a whole load of drama exploded. A whole load of things that I will not divulge. So that was strike one. If you bring drama into people's lives, they will push you out very quickly. Very quickly. And some people do not have the capacity to forgive and move on. All of a sudden, the friend who was once beside you playing music turns into your accuser, and you turn into theirs. And then you're down a dark path. A dark path with no fruits, but trauma. Trauma, trauma, trauma. Keep your business between who you interact and talk with in private to yourself. Many will try to milk it out of you. It's none of their business. Who you talk to, that's private. Gather the information, all right, between both, but be very intelligent about it. You don't need to know anyway. What do you need to know about dramas? People are always fighting, falling out. Always happens. Always happens. Two really good friends can become enemies very quickly with a few actions. So then things started to sour. And I was down that town in Ballymahon there. And I started giving out about one of the lads over in Lansborough. And at the time, I was struggling mentally, because fighting and arguing and all that sort of stuff, that makes me ill, being around that sort of thing. It does. It's stressful, and it's horrible energy. And the peace and the harmony and the kinship and the brothership that once was disappeared in the mist, gone for good. So then I ended up in hospital again. I went to hospital, but let me tell you what happens to people that go against the men of God. This is the fact. I went to hospital. I came out, and I remember well, Barney O'Boyle's, and I was at no Doyle's in Cana. There was a charity gig, and a friend of mine, Angelina, asked me to it. A Caribbean, lovely girl, to play a few songs. So I was delighted to get playing at all. I was battling through it, and I got up and sang Raglan Road or something like that. And there's two of the lads in at the bar. All of a sudden, you were talking about us in Ballymahan. You see, it'll always come back. Bad news. You spread bad news and dark energy about someone, it will come back straight in front of your face. It more or less told me I could fake off, I was broken in, there was two friendships lost, and the two of them accused me. So, but there was another man there, another Carberry, and he was fierce nice to me, and talking about how there's a connection between my family and his, and it was almost as if he was defending me against the other fella, being very nice while the other fellow was being, my former friend was being angry. So, what happened to the boys? Let me tell you what happened to the boys. It's bad luck to go against me. It is. You might not believe it, but it is. People who help me get good luck. And I've seen it all through my life. The first lad, right, he didn't accuse me of anything, but he was in an argument. He wasn't there that night in Doyle's. I told him long before in the house in Lansborough. I told him if he was drinking a lot, and he was binging. And I says, if you don't go easy on the old drink, I says, and take it easy, something bad is going to happen to you. I says, can't you focus on the music? And he says, well, why can't I do both? I says, no, you can't. I have a bad feeling, something bad is going to happen to you. He slipped one night when he was playing. I think he might have been drunk or not. And he broke his arm. A brilliant guitarist. There you go. That's the first thing that happened. But he didn't do any harm to me. And I never actually. He never accused me of anything, and I didn't accuse him of anything either. Then there was two lads in Doyle's. The first lad, his guitar broke in half, a €1,000 guitar broke in half in the back of his van, all by itself. There you go, that's strike two. And the last fella, he ended up in a mental institution himself. So there you go. Am I glad about these things? No. But they are assigned to me. They are assigned to me. Because when I walked into Doyle's, I was in a very low place. I was after getting out of hospital. I was full of medication. And I was manic. Well, no, I was chronically depressed, a very dark depression. So that's what the stride, the fruit that grows when you plant a seed, plant a good one, not a bad one. And that could have all been avoided if I had kept my mouth shut in regard to meeting one person or the other. If you know two different musicians, you don't know their history with each other, especially if they're not far from each other, living far from each other. And you know that they were. I made the mistake. I forgot all about the past, It was a big mistake. But, I learned from that mistake. When someone tells you something in confidence, don't tell it back. Don't go back telling stories. Don't go and give out about musicians unless you hide their identity. You could say, I know this fella, but it's not going to do you any good. It's not going to do you any good, because what happens is they become your rival, then they become your enemy, and then you cut off all ties to opportunities to grow as a musician. All right, God bless you. I think that's chapter 19.